Listen carefully, because this might be the moment everything changes for you. You don't make a man regret losing you by chasing him. You don't make him miss you by reminding him you exist. You make him feel it by becoming unavailable to him. Completely. Not angry, not bitter, just gone. You're still too easy to reach, and that's exactly why nothing has changed. Every time he thinks about you, he already knows where you are, right there, available, predictable, emotionally open. You reply within minutes. You watch everything he posts. You leave little signs of your presence like you're afraid he might forget you. But here's the uncomfortable truth. He's not forgetting you because you're always there. He's getting used to you. And when someone gets used to you, they stop valuing you the way they should. Accessibility kills mystery. It removes tension. It makes your presence feel ordinary instead of special. When you're always one message away, you're no longer a priority. You're a convenience. And people don't fight for convenience. They don't lose sleep over something they can access anytime they want. They don't feel the weight of your absence because there is no absence to feel. Think about it. Why would he wonder about you if he already sees everything you're doing? Why would he miss you if you never give him the chance? Why would he regret losing you when, in his mind, he hasn't really lost anything? You're still responding, still reacting, still emotionally available, even without commitment. That's not power. That's permission. Pulling back isn't about playing games. It's about restoring balance. It's about reminding him without saying a single word that access to you is not guaranteed, that your time, your energy, your attention are valuable and not something he can tap into whenever he feels like it. When you stop being so easy to reach, you create space. And in that space, something powerful happens. He starts to notice. At first, it confuses him. He checks his phone expecting your name to pop up, but it doesn't. He posts something waiting for your reaction, but there's silence. That silence starts to echo louder than any message you could have sent. It forces him to think about you in a way he hasn't in a long time. Not as someone who's always there, but as someone who might actually be gone. And that shift changes everything. Because now, instead of you wondering where you stand, he's the one questioning. Instead of you chasing clarity, he's chasing your attention. Not because you begged for it, not because you explained your worth, but because you finally stopped giving it away so easily. This isn't about becoming cold or pretending you don't care. It's about caring enough about yourself to stop overextending for someone who hasn't earned that level of access. You're not cutting him off to punish him. You're stepping back to protect your own value. And when you do that, you force him to see what life feels like without your constant presence filling the gaps. The moment you become less available, you become more memorable. The moment you stop reaching out, he starts reaching within. And the moment he realizes you're no longer easy to access, he finally understands what it means to lose you. You keep thinking that if you just explain yourself one more time, he'll finally understand. If you just send the right message, use the right words, express your feelings clearly enough, something will click for him. But it hasn't. And deep down, you already know that, because the truth is, when someone wants to understand you, they don't need a perfect explanation. They pay attention. They listen. They care. And when they don't, no amount of talking will force that awareness into them. Every time you reach out to explain, you're giving him another chance to stay comfortable. You're keeping the emotional connection alive while he puts in minimal effort. You're showing him that no matter how distant he becomes, you'll bridge the gap for him. That's not communication, that's imbalance. And over time, it drains your energy while feeding his ego. Silence, on the other hand, does something your words never could. It removes the safety net. It takes away the reassurance that you'll always be there to express, clarify, and fix things. When you stop talking, he doesn't get the easy version of you anymore. He doesn't get access to your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions. And that absence creates a kind of pressure that words can't replicate, because now, instead of hearing your voice, he's left alone with his own thoughts. And that's where real reflection begins. He starts replaying moments. He starts questioning things he ignored before. He starts wondering why the person who used to be so expressive has suddenly gone quiet. That shift unsettles him because it breaks the pattern he was comfortable with. Your silence isn't weakness, it's restraint, it's self-control. It's choosing not to pour energy into someone who hasn't valued it. And more importantly, it's allowing your absence to speak on your behalf. Because when you're no longer explaining your pain, he's forced to face the possibility that he caused it. When you're no longer reacting, he has nothing to push against. No emotional response to validate his behavior. Just stillness. And that stillness can be louder than any argument, any paragraph, any late night message you were tempted to send. It leaves room for realization. Not guaranteed change, but awareness. And awareness is the first step toward regret. You don't need to convince someone of your worth. You don't need to keep proving how you feel. If they couldn't see it when you were given everything, they'll only start to question it when that effort disappears. Silence creates contrast. It shows them the difference between having you and not having you. It's not about ignoring someone to manipulate them. It's about stepping back so you're no longer overextending yourself. It's about reclaiming your energy and letting your absence carry the message you've been trying to deliver all along. And when that message finally lands, it won't be because of what you said. It'll be because of what you stopped saying. Right now, your energy is too focused on what he's doing, what he's thinking, whether he misses you, whether he's coming back. And that focus is exactly what's holding you in place. Because as long as your life revolves around him, even in his absence, you're not moving forward. You're standing still, waiting for something outside of you to change. But the moment you shift that energy back onto yourself, everything starts to transform. This is where you stop being the person who got hurt and start becoming the person who evolves. Leveling up isn't about proving something to him. It's about proving something to yourself. It's about rebuilding the parts of you that got neglected while you were investing so much into someone else. Your confidence, your discipline, your self-respect, your goals, those are the things that define your value, not his attention. Start with your mindset. The way you think about yourself shapes everything. If you keep telling yourself that you weren't enough, that you lost something important, that he was the best you could do, you'll stay stuck in that version of you. But when you decide that this is your turning point, that this is where you rise, that this is where you become stronger, you step into a completely different identity. Then there's your lifestyle. What you do every day matters. How you spend your time matters. Instead of checking this profile, build something, learn something. Work on your goals. Improve your habits. The more you invest in your own growth, the less space he occupies in your mind. And slowly, without forcing it, you detach. Not because you're trying to forget him, but because your life is becoming bigger than the situation. Your appearance can change too, but not for validation, for empowerment. When you take care of yourself, when you put effort into how you look and how you carry yourself, it sends a message, not just to others, but to your own mind, that you matter, that you're worth the effort, that you're not someone who falls apart, you're someone who rebuilds. And here's what really hits. When he sees you again, or even hears about you, he won't recognize the same version of you he left behind. The energy is different. The confidence is different. The focus is different. You're no longer waiting, no longer chasing, no longer emotionally available in the same way. And that contrast forces him to realize something he didn't before, that you weren't just valuable, you were rare. People often take things for granted when they stay the same. But when you grow, when you evolve, when you elevate your standards in your life, you create distance between who you were and who you are now. And that distance is where regret lives. Because now, he's not just missing you. He's missing the upgraded version of you that he no longer has access to. The real power move isn't making him jealous or trying to get his attention. It's becoming so focused, so driven, so aligned with your own growth that his attention becomes irrelevant. And ironically, that's exactly when it returns. You're still waiting for him to give you something he was never willing to give in the first place. Closure. You keep replaying conversations in your head, thinking about what you should say, what you could still say, how you might finally get the answers that will make everything make sense. But every time you go back, every time you reopen that door, you don't walk away with peace. You walk away with more confusion because closure doesn't come from him. It never did. The idea that he owes you a perfect explanation, a heartfelt apology, or some deep moment of realization is what's keeping you emotionally tied. It keeps you checking, hoping, waiting. It keeps you connected to someone who has already shown you through actions what you meant to them. And the hardest truth to accept is this. Sometimes the way someone leaves is the closure. When you keep seeking answers, you're also sending a message without realizing it, that your healing depends on him, that your peace is still in his hands. And as long as that's the case, you're not free. You're still emotionally available, still open, still attached to the outcome of someone else's behavior. But the moment you decide that you don't need anything more from him, that you're done asking, done explaining, done revisiting, you take that power back. You stop giving him a role in your healing. You stop giving him access to your emotional state. And that's when things start to shift inside you. It's not easy because your mind will try to pull you back. It will tell you that one more conversation might fix everything. That maybe this time he'll understand. That maybe this time you'll get the closure you've been searching for. But that cycle never ends unless you end it. Closure is a decision. It's you looking at everything that happened, the inconsistency, the confusion, the way you felt, and choosing to accept it for what it is, not what you hoped it would be. It's choosing your peace over your curiosity. It's choosing your dignity over your desire for answers. And when you truly close that door, you don't leave it slightly open just in case. You don't keep checking to see if he'll knock again. You walk away knowing that even if he does come back, it won't change the fact that you already chose yourself. That's the part people underestimate. When you stop seeking closure from him, you become unavailable to his unfinished business. You're no longer someone he can come back to for comfort, validation, or convenience. You become someone who has already moved on emotionally, someone who no longer needs anything from him. And that's when the dynamic flips. Because now, if he starts to feel the weight of what he lost, he can't just fix it with a conversation. He can't just say a few words and regain access to you. He has to face the reality that you're no longer waiting, no longer searching, no longer hoping. You gave yourself what he couldn't: clarity, respect, and a final decision. And once you do that, there's nothing left for him to close. He remembers a version of you that no longer exists. The one who tolerated inconsistency, who over-explained her feelings, who stayed even when things didn't feel right. That's the version he got comfortable with. The one who gave chances, who waited for change, who made excuses when he didn't show up the way he should have. And as long as you stay that same person, nothing about the dynamic will truly shift. Change doesn't start with what he sees on the outside. It starts with how you think, how you respond, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. Becoming unrecognizable isn't about looking different for attention. It's about thinking differently for your own growth. It's about reaching a point where the things you once accepted no longer feel normal to you. You stop reacting the same way. The things that used to trigger you don't have the same hold anymore. You don't feel the urge to chase, to explain, to fix. There's a calmness in you now, but it's not passive. It's controlled. You're no longer driven by emotion in the same way. You're intentional. You're aware. You choose when to engage and when to walk away. Your standards rise quietly. You don't announce them, you live them. You don't need to tell anyone what you deserve. You simply stop entertaining anything that doesn't match it. And that shift alone changes how people approach you. Because when you no longer accept less, less stops coming into your life as easily. The way you move becomes different. You're not checking your phone every few minutes, wondering if he texted. You're not adjusting your behavior to keep his interest. Your life isn't centered around his attention anymore. You have your own direction, your own focus, your own priorities. And that independence creates a kind of energy that people notice without you saying a word. There's also a level of emotional discipline that develops. You feel things, but you don't let those feelings control your actions. You don't act out of loneliness, you don't reach out of habit, and you don't go back just because it's familiar. You pause, you think, you choose what aligns with the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. And when he eventually sees you or hears about you, what stands out isn't just that you've changed, it's how much you've changed. You're not responding the way he expected. You're not available the way you used to be. You're not emotionally open in the same way. The version of you he thought he understood is gone, replaced by someone who values herself differently. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not trying to prove a point, not trying to get a reaction, but evolving so deeply that the old version of you feels distant even to yourself. And once that happens, even if he looks back, he's not looking at the same person anymore. He's looking at someone he no longer has access to, someone who grew beyond the space he left her in. You keep interrupting the process before it has a chance to work. Every time you feel the silence getting heavy, you reach out. Every time you start wondering what he's thinking, you break your own distance. And in doing that, you reset everything. You give him relief before he ever feels the full weight of losing you. Absence only works when it's real. Not partial, not temporary, not something you break the moment it gets uncomfortable. Real absence means he no longer has access to you, your time, your energy, your attention, your presence. And without that access, something shifts. Because now there's nothing buffering him from the reality of you not being there anymore. At first, he might not react. He might stay distracted, busy, focus on other things. But over time, patterns start to break. The Pravitchka of seeing your name, hearing from you, feeling your presence, it fades. And when it fades, it creates a gap, a silence that wasn't there before, a space that used to be filled by you. That's when it starts to hit. Not all at once, but in moments. When something reminds him of you and there's no one to share it with. When he checks his phone out of habit and realizes there's nothing from you. When he notices that the person who used to be consistent is now completely absent. That contrast becomes impossible to ignore. And the longer you maintain that absence, the louder it becomes. Because now, it's not just about missing you, it's about realizing what your presence actually meant. The emotional support, the attention, the understanding, the effort. Things that were once easy to overlook suddenly feel significant when they're gone. But this only happens if you stay consistent. The moment you break your own boundary, you give him reassurance again. You remind him that no matter how long the silence lasts, you're still there. And that weakens the impact of everything you were trying to build. Consistency is what turns absence into realization. It shows that this isn't a phase, not a temporary reaction, but a real shift. That you're not waiting in the background, not keeping the door open, not holding on to something that no longer serves you. And as that realization grows, so does the weight of it. Because now he's not just dealing with distance. He's dealing with the possibility that this distance is permanent. That what he had isn't coming back in the same way, if at all. That's where regret forms. Not from what you say, not from what you explain, but from what he experiences without you. The silence, the absence, the lack of access. It forces him to confront everything he didn't appreciate when it was right in front of him. And whether he acts on that regret or not becomes irrelevant. Because by the time he fully feels it, you're no longer the person who's waiting for him to realize anything.